The night was thick with the scent of gunpowder and death. The wind howled through the ruined artillery position, rattling loose scraps of metal and fluttering torn banners that once stood proudly. The guns lay shattered, their barrels twisted and broken, their once mighty roar silenced forever. The bodies of fallen soldiers sprawled across the frozen ground, their last breaths stolen in smoke and fire, frozen in their final moments of duty and despair. Through the wreckage, a lone figure paced relentlessly, boots crunching against the frosted earth. His uniform was tattered, his face hollowed by exhaustion and fury. He clenched his fists, his eyes fixed on a half-buried bunker where a soldier sat slumped against the dirt wall, a flask dangling loosely from his blood-stained fingers. "Get up, you worthless bastard," the pacing man bellowed, his voice breaking against the silence of the battlefield. "How can you sleep while our comrades lie dead all around us?" The man in the bunker did not stir. The pacing soldier snarled, his words cutting sharper than the icy wind. "Coward! You were supposed to fire when they charged. We were supposed to hold the line, hold the damn line." But still, no answer. Only the crack of the wind tugging at broken banners, and the faint creak of cooling metal. Hour after hour, he continued. His voice rose, cracked, fell again. He cursed the officers who had ordered them to stay. He cursed the enemy shells that had rained down without mercy. He cursed the silence of the man before him. "I fought!" he shouted, pounding his chest with both fists. "I reloaded until my hands bled raw. I fired until my shoulders split from the recoil. And where were you? Hiding, drinking, pretending this wasn't happening." The man in the bunker shifted slightly when the wind pushed dirt across his still form, but his head never lifted. The pacing soldier's fury drained into something heavier, his voice soft and ragged. He dropped to his knees. "We could have stopped them. We could have held them back. If you'd just done your job, maybe they'd still be alive. Maybe we wouldn't be standing here alone." Silence. He pressed his palms into the dirt, his breath shuddering in the cold air. He stared at the horizon, waiting for dawn, though it seemed like the night would never break. He muttered to himself now, wandering among the broken cannons and fallen comrades. He whispered apologies to men whose faces he could barely remember, promises he knew he could never keep. At one point he bent down beside a lifeless soldier, clutching the man's frozen hand. "We were brothers, weren't we? We promised we'd go home together. I swore I'd keep you alive." He let the hand fall, hollered, "I failed all of you." The hours stretched endlessly. "No enemy! Come in, no!" artillery thundered. "Whoosh the cold, endless night." And his own voice, gnawing at the silence. And then, engines. Distant at first, a low growl on the horizon, growing louder until it rolled across the battlefield. At last, dawn broke pale and gray as a convoy of reinforcements arrived. Trucks rattled over frozen ground, boots stamped across the ruins. Fresh soldiers, young and clean-faced, rifles at the ready, stepped carefully among the bodies. Their sergeant, a hardened man with a scar down his jaw, barked orders. "Fan out. Check the positions. Secure the ground before command arrives." One soldier, hardly more than a boy, crept toward the bunker. He froze, then called out, "Sir, there's one in here." The squad rushed over, lights flickering in the gloom. Slumped against the wall was the soldier with the flask. His chest was soaked through with dried blood, a gaping shrapnel wound carved through his ribs. His face, frozen in a grimace, looked like it had been caught mid— "Poor bastard," the sergeant muttered, shaking his head. "Didn't even have a chance. Died in his sleep." The young soldier frowned. "But, sir, I swear, I heard yelling from this position last night." The watch captain logged it as possible enemy activity. Voices shouting, screaming. But if he's been dead all along, who could it have been? The men exchanged uneasy glances, and only a few feet away, the pacing man stood. He stared at them, his heart pounding in his chest. He wanted to scream at them, to tell them it was him, that he was the one who fought all night, who shouted until his throat bled. But then he saw what they saw. His own body, slumped against the bunker wall. His own uniform, soaked through with blood. His own pale, lifeless face staring into nothing. The realization struck harder than any shell. He staggered back, looking at his hands, fading, transparent in the pale dawn light. "No," he whispered, voice trembling. "No, it can't be. I fought. I was here. I was alive." He clutched his chest, but felt nothing. He reached for the frozen rifle at his side, but his hand passed straight through it. All this time, he hadn't been yelling at a drunken soldier. He hadn't been accusing a coward hiding in the shadows. He had been screaming at himself. He remembered the last barrage, the way the ground had lifted beneath him, the red-hot sear that tore across his ribs. The darkness that followed, the soldier's breath caught in his throat. His knees buckled as he stared at his fading hands. Around him, the new squad muttered and carried on, unaware of the ghost still clinging to the ruins. He wanted to stay. He wanted to fight again, to fix what had gone wrong. But the battlefield didn't want him anymore. As the sun climbed higher, the cold morning air seemed to push him away. The guns, the soldiers, the war they, all receded, fading into mist. His voice cracked one last time, a whisper scattered by the wind. We could have held the line. And then he was gone. Only silence remained.